Welcome back, everyone, to Widescreen, a film discussion podcast. Podcast, lest we forget.
Not a blog?
not just a blog and/or Facebook group.
All right.
We are a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, William is back.
What?
What's up, buddy?
What? So today we're doing superheroes, right?
You know what? We need some more listeners. Let's do 80s all over again.
I got one for you. Michael Bay movies.
Yay!
Do Michael Bay movies.
Woo! Bill and I haven't been on the mic together since January when we spoke about Rouge One. We spoke about Rouge One, as some people spell it. But we're back now, and I've said this before on the page in here, and this summer we're going to be back everywhere. But we're back with a show that is going to be fun, but I hate the reason we're doing it. Sir Roger Moore has left us. He is gone, and I am now saying a phrase that I never thought I would have to say. I just said it. I already said it.
Oh, okay.
I
thought you were leading up to something.
No,
I was like, okay.
I said that incorrectly, yes. Sir Roger Moore died last week at the age of 89. I didn't think he was that old.
It's a pretty good run.
He had been fighting cancer, and it got him. And it's not like, oh my God, he died too soon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he left behind quite a wake.
Yeah.
You'll forgive the funeral pun there. He's buried in Monaco. He had a house in Monaco, and
yeah, I heard about that.
he was always kind of a high-class suave dude.
Yeah.
And they buried him there, and that's awesome. I wouldn't want him, buried next to Ian Fleming or something like that. That would be a little much, but so anyway, Roger Moore's gone, and we thought we'd do a little ditty on old Raj. Can I call Sir Raj?
Sir, yeah.
Sir Raj.
Why not? He got 2 of those England titles.
Yeah.
In his lifetime. Might as well give him credit where it's due.
Let's get the fun elephant in the room. Might as well start.
There's an elephant in the room?
Yeah. Scoot over, buddy. We're trying to do a show here. He played James Bond.
No.
Yeah, no, I swear to God he did.
No.
I swear to you. Look it up.
That's a movie, right?
Yeah, it's a couple.
There's a couple.
I think there was 4. As my dad says, there was probably only technically 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He played James Bond, of course, and that's what gave him his superstardom. Now let's back up. He was already a star.
Yeah, he got over. Did the Saint?
The Saint.
The Saint made him
Simon
kind of
Templar.
a star.
Yeah, he was a star with the Saint.
Or you can say his handsomely good looks made him a star.
He was quite. He, I tell you, and I say this with all due respect to all the others. He was certainly, in my opinion, the most suave and handsome Bond, the most suave and handsome Saint, the most suave and handsome Maverick.
You didn't like Val Kilmer?
Oh boy, sorry folks. Bad flashback to seeing the Saint with Val Kilmer. No offense to Val Kilmer, I like old Val. May he continue getting better with his little cancer issue. Yeah, no. Look, Roger Moore isn't Laurence Olivier, and I think he knew that. But he always took chances on his non-Bond movies, and he was always I thought, reverting to Bond real quick, we'll get back there, I'm sure. He didn't have to put on, excuse me, again. Sorry, I'm getting all choked up because of Roger. He didn't have to put on the fake suave. He didn't have to, all right, let me get in the character, That's kind of how he was. Mm-hmm. He liked, he lived in Monaco, for God's sake, and his only major perk for playing Bond, he smoked his famous, long cigars, and he said he always wanted a case on set, and he's always holding one. He actually smoked one in a couple of them, but he's always holding one in set pictures. He's always got his, but he liked his fine wines and his, he was, in real life, he was like James Bond without fighting gadgets,
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was married to the same woman, so one-woman guy, but he was just a suave, handsome dude. And I think it worked for him on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
But no, The Saint is where he found his first fame, and then he was the second Maverick. I can't remember his character's name, but
Yeah.
I've watched a few of them. Meh, you know. I was meh on the whole show, but I'm sure at the time, I mean, Garner, of course, is fantastic, but this is Roger's show. But, and he did a couple of films before he became Bond that we'll just jump right over, unless you want to speak of one.
No.
And then 1973, he made everybody go, whew, no more Lazenby. And even though I like George Lazenby, but that's another show. And became James Bond in Live and Let Die. My son's favorite. Arcade's favorite. My youngest son's favorite. So far.
Yeah.
He's only just begun. I wanted to wait till he was at least 7 or 8. That's when I discovered, by the way, I was 7. Well, I was 4 when Live and Let Die came out, so I didn't see it. I was 5, excuse me. But I was 7 when... I was 8, sorry, when Spy Who Loved Me came out. And for me, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
That summer, I had Star Wars, A New Hope, and The Spy Who Loved Me, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Could be the best summer of my young life, if not life, period. But Spy Who Loved Me is the one that really got me into Bond. I had seen a couple Bonds on TV, you know, Connery, and but man, Spy Who Loved Me, Jesus Christ. But anyway,
was he in that one?
He sure was. A lot of people say it's his best. I think it's his best to a point. If I really think about it, For Your Eyes Only, maybe for me. I don't know. Are you a fan? What's your favorite? More Bond.
More Bond.
More Bond.
I don't know.
Yeah. If you had to say we were on a podcast and somebody just threw the question out and you had to answer it, what would you say?
I don't know. It's hard because those are the ones I grew up with. Because that was your best summer of your life. I was 1, so.
Huh? What was that?
So, but through the 80s, you know, those were the Bonds that I remember. You mentioned James Bond. It was not even Sean Connery really came up. It was, you know, Roger Moore was.
It wasn't until I was in high school and my
Spy
dad.
Who Loved Me and and those probably, you know, but it's hard to say.
It is. Live and Let Die. I'll just go in order very quickly. Live and Let Die is it's a great Bond movie, I think. A lot of people don't like the mix of James Bond and blaxploitation movies, which they were trying to do. One of the best Bond themes ever, I think. Won an Oscar, of course. George Martin did the soundtrack, so it was really good. John Barry, I don't know why he couldn't do it that time. It's just so fun, and it's so ridiculous. And mind you, there was ridiculous moments in Connery's Bonds. And I think a lot of people who do have problems with Roger Moore's Bonds, that's their problem. That's when Bond got outlandish. Yeah, and very campy, and he was quippy. And I rewatched Live and Let Die and Spy Who Loved Me recently after his death and showing Arcade. And even me, there's a couple of times where I'm wincing. I'm like, oh, and I can almost see it coming. Like, don't. Oh, you know, he said it. He was very quippy, but I don't know. From like you said, that's the Bond we grew up on. I mean, now that I'm a Bond enthusiast, and it's my favorite film series after that little thing we like to call Star Wars. Just by the way, if anybody's keeping score, you know, yes, to me. I agree, Connery is the best Bond. I mean, there's no argument, I think. But Moore is second. I mean, for me, Moore is just... All the others are good on their own different levels. And for me, Dalton comes closest to what Connery was. He's my third, actually. But for me, there's only 2 full sides of the Bond coin, and that's Connery and Moore. And not just because they did the most movies, it's just... They're both James Bond. I mean, I can't. I wish I could express it better than that right there, but yeah, I don't know. A lot of people have problems with the campiness of it, and Hey, as a kid, that's
Yeah,
what you want.
What you want.
As a kid, From Russia with Love,
Mhm.
one of the best Bond movies, bored the living shit out of me. You know what I mean? Like, well, he's just walking around, a couple of fist fights, fight on a train. I'm bored. Yeah. And that's one of the better ones. But so, I mean, we grow. But you know what? I never started dissing the Roger Moore ones either. Live and Let Die is first one. I like it a lot. I love it. And it's all over the place. I mean, he starts in London, he goes to New York, he goes to Jamaica, he goes to Florida, he's in Louisiana. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then the second one he did actually did not do well. And I can see why. I don't know if you're a fan. The Man with the Golden Gun with Christopher Lee and Hervé Villechaize as Short Round. No, sorry.
Short Round.
Sorry. Sure. Hold on to your potatoes, Mr. Jones. I'm sorry,
got
folks.
the pictures of power.
I'm sorry, folks and fellow Bond fans. Hervé Villechaize did not play Short Round. In the Man with the Golden Gun, he played Knick Knack. Knick Knack, not Short Round. Oh my God. But I remember Christopher Lee was.
You can only hear me shaking my head.
Right, yes, and I'm sure Bond and movie fans listening are just, oh Jesus. He played Knick Knack, and I always liked the way Christopher Lee was Scaramanga, the Man with the Golden Gun. Monsieur Scaramanga, Monsieur Bond here to see you. I tell you, it was on the bottom of all the Bonds for me. I mean, it has a few moments. My thumb isn't down, but it's barely up. It's boring. It's slow to me. It goes on, and it gets silly, but you don't remember it well?
Not really.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. I don't remember a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Christopher Lee's a good bad guy, but they don't do enough with him. It's just cool because it's Christopher Lee. Right. If that would have been somebody else, I would have said, "Whoa, what a boring bad guy." Yeah, I mean, it's okay. The song's even kind of dumb, you know. And but Moore's fine, and it was iffy if he was going to do another one after those two, and he said, "I'll try one more, and we'll see what happens."
Just
and
one.
And that was The Spy Who Loved Me, and that was one of the biggest Bond hits of all time. I love The Spy Who Loved Me. I love it, love it, love it. I love the theme. Nobody does it better. I love everything about that movie. Every single thing. You remember that, of course. Well, yeah. One of the best Bond girls, Barbara Bach, Mrs. Ringo Starr, as Agent Triple X. No, I loved it, and I think that's where. And it's funny because, for me, Pierce Brosnan didn't really get Bond to me until his third film. Ergo, Roger Moore as well. I mean, he was great in Live and Let Die and Man with the Golden Gun, but Spy Who Loved Me, man. I'm like, yes, he's James Bond entire. And it's just, that's the big goofy one. Well, and then the one following. But full of gadgets and silliness and swallowing up ships. And I loved it. I thought it was great. A lot of fun. Any words on Moore and or Spy Who Loved Me?
No, not really.
Yeah. And it's funny because at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, it says, you know how it always says, James Bond will return in.
You're
and
the
it says,
Bond aficionado. So.
I am, sir. I am. It says at the end of Spy Who Loved Me, James Bond will return and for your eyes only. And then Star Wars was a big hit that summer, and they said, wait, we got to put James Bond in space. So the next one's actually Moonraker. What do you think of Moonraker? I know you remember Moonraker. With all the spaceships and Jaws is back. Forgot to mention Jaws, but this is a Roger Moore podcast.
It's Roger Moore, not necessarily.
Sorry, Keel. Kyle? Keel? Kyle? I don't know. But no, Moonraker, a lot of people hate that. Yeah, it's dumb. I mean, at the end, it's dumb and cool at the same time. The big end thing is James Bond in space with a jetpack, which is retarded. And they all have lasers, and the bad guys, and they're all choo 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 choo. It's ridiculous, but it's amazing. I mean, all these guys in jetpacks firing lasers in the middle of space, and James Bond's one of them. Absolutely retarded. And
Everybody wants the lasers. Come on.
yeah, right. And John Barry, Shirley Bassey was back doing the theme. It's not that great of a theme, but it's Shirley Bassey. Bassey? Shirley. Miss Goldfinger. No, I love Moonraker. And Moore is overly quippy in Moonraker. And there's some dumb shit. But I don't care. Most people have Moonraker at the bottom of their list. Of James Bond films entire.
The entire.
Yeah. No, it's a blast. For Your Eyes Only was next, finally. I love it. The thing I love about that, you remember that one, right? The thing I love about that, besides getting to actually see Sheena Easton sing the theme song, nearly topless in the opening credits, is that because of the backlash to Moonraker, which was a huge hit, but even Roger Moore said, we got a little in that one. They bring him back down to earth. Literally. He's meeting with Greek freedom fighters trying to fight this bad guy. And the girl wanting to avenge her family for being killed. Carole Bouquet. Beautiful French actress. It's a great movie. It's exciting. Sorry, it's Richard Kyle's family texting me. You should have mentioned Jaws. Jaws was great. 2 movies he's done. No, For Your Eyes Only, it's a more grounded film. Moore is more grounded in that movie because he has a couple small gadgets, but there's a scene in For Your Eyes Only, I don't know if you remember it, one of the bad guys, there's a great car chase. Are they in Monte Carlo at the time before they get to Greece, or maybe they're already in Greece? And at the end of the car chase, one of the bad guys' cars is on the edge of a cliff, and he's like, help me, and Bond goes up to him and to get some information, and he gets it, and Bond kicks the car over the ledge, and the guy dies. Roger Moore hated that scene, and he hated any scenes where Bond was overtly violent when he could have just knocked somebody out.
Well, he had a phobia for guns too. So
he didn't like holding guns. He didn't like firing guns. He hated the squibs going off around him.
Apparently, he had issues filming every time he had to.
Yeah. Isn't that weird to hear? It would be like hearing, and Sean Connery didn't like women. Right? And he had a hard time with them. Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about that. He did. Yeah, he did. He hated everything about the guns and the shooting. But the thing about that, and there's a couple other scenes of violence that he denounced in the Bond films. James Bond is part of the Double O's. The Double O's are what? Assassins. They get the information and then they kill the targets. You know, if somebody tries to kill them, they don't say, "Hey, you, no, stop, silly goose." No, they kill them. They're assassins.
Put the knife down.
Exactly. Now run away. Good boy. Yeah. No, I mean, no offense, Sir Roger, but you were playing an assassin. A rather well-dressed, well-groomed assassin, but you're an assassin just the same. But I love For Your Eyes Only. Had the great Topol. I never knew how to pronounce his name, from Fiddler in the Roof. They're all scaling down the big Greek, mountains, and it's fantastic. Attacking a mountainside, it's like the Guns of Navarone, James Bond style, or Where Eagles Dare or something. It's a fantastic movie, and Moore was really good in it. There are moments when he has to be very serious, and he was really, really good at that. And that was a huge hit, and everybody said, "Yay! James Bond's back to how we know him." And then he did. I pulled out all my Roger Moore movies, and my son says, "What's next?" And I said, "Moonraker," and then For Your Eyes Only. And he looked at the next one we're about to talk about. "What's that one?" And he says, "Octopussy?" And he giggled. I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's what it's called."
He's getting to that age, huh?
Yeah, Octopussy. He said. Yeah. That Octopussy. I don't know if you. I just like saying the word. Let me tell you about
Wonder where he
Octopussy.
gets it.
Octopussy. The movie Octopussy. Real very quickly,
You
Roger.
sure you weren't the one giggling?
I
when he
was.
said
What'd you say, Arcade? He said pee. On the special features, of course, they talked to Roger Moore, and imagine that. And he's talking about Louis Jourdan, who played the Octopussies. He was the bad guy.
Still giggling.
And Roger Moore said Louis Jourdan loved being in this film just so he could say Octopussy over and over again. And if you watch the movie, because Maud Adams is Octopussy, if you watch the movie, Louis Jourdan is always Octopussy. I have to talk to you. Octopussy, come here. Octopussy, calm down. You know, he's always probably isn't even scripted half the time he says it. But that's one that. What was it, 83? So I wasn't born yet. No, I was 12 when it came out. It bored me a little bit. Do you remember it? The egg, the Fabergé egg, and the circus tent, and Octopussy's girls are like Pussy Galore and her chicks, always spiraling around. And you can say chicks because we're talking about Bond dames skirts. It always bored me, and I remember it bored me throughout my life. And then when I rewatched it, every few years I do the Bonds. 6-7 years ago, I like it a lot. It's really good, and it's almost too grounded. Like that one's all shootouts and car chases and fistfights, and there's nothing huge going on except at the end when Q comes in a hot air balloon, and everybody's machine gunning, and then at the end it's kind of silly. Bond dresses in a clown outfit so he can sneak into so he does the whole end action sequence dressed as a clown, which I wish they wouldn't have done, but what can you do? And he's being very serious. We have to get you out of here. Clown makeup. But it's a good one. It's not a great one. It's got one of my least favorite songs, All Time High by Rita Coolidge. It's alright. It's okay. You don't remember it that well? Yeah, well. And then he did his final one, View to a Kill, which is one, same thing. I didn't used to like it much, and now I like it a lot. But you remember that one pretty well?
Not pretty well.
We need to have a Bondathon, sir.
Yeah,
we do. Anytime.
I forget what type of podcast this is. Is this just...
I think we're doing Grace Jones movies.
Okay, yeah.
And Grace Jones was in A View to a Kill.
I am on a movie podcast for movies that I barely remember. Yes, that's right, folks.
That's all right. This is a learning experience for all of us.
Everybody knows I'm just here for you to know.
Oh, now you.
Throw out little facts every once.
But I think everybody will know by the end of this one. Man, that guy loves his Bond movies. We did a Bond podcast way back. Do you remember?
I think the same way. I was like, yep. Anthony's
it was
talking
the
all
Anthony
about the
Solo
Bond
show
movies.
for Bond, yeah. Yeah, well. Well, once we get over these, we can talk about Roger Moore proper, and then you can jump in. Yeah,
because my favorite Bond movie we haven't talked yet. Just kidding.
Is he in it? All right.
Sort of, kind of.
He's not in my favorite Bond movie. Thunderball, just for those of you playing at home, is my favorite. What's yours?
Wow. There's like 20 of them.
No, I know. Oh, I thought you really had one. All right.
No, I was just making a joke about Roger Moore and one of his other movies he's done.
Right. Oh, he did something besides Bond? View to a Kill. Christopher Walken was the bad guy. Boring bad guy. He's great. Same thing with Christopher Lee in Man with the Golden Gun. Boring bad. He wants to destroy Silicon Valley. And ooh, who gives a shit?
Well, Grace. Then no one gave a shit. But...
That's true, yeah. Grace Jones is Mayday, his henchwoman, and Tanya Roberts, the worst Bond girl in history until Denise Richards from The World Is Not Enough. Denise Richards playing a nuclear physicist. Holy. Makes Tanya Roberts look like Pussy Galore from
Yeah.
Goldfinger. Did I mention the movie Octopussy? Anyway, I just wanted to say it again, folks.
Just had to wait a second for you to chuckle.
That one's for you, Louis Jourdan. No, View to a Kill, it's a good one. It's a little slow. There's a lot of yapping in that movie. A lot of yapping. The whole plot isn't interesting, and we won't talk about the movie. We've already done that in our whatever the Bond podcast was called. But it was Roger Moore's last one. They wanted him to do at least one more, and he said he was thinking about it, but he was feeling too old, and he's looking a little, aged for Bond. And he said on the day that he had to do his love scene with Tanya Roberts, who wasn't even 30, he met her mother, because she was a big Bond fan and she wanted to meet him, so she came to the set that day, and she was all excited, and Roger Moore was honored and thrilled. He met Tanya Roberts' mother, and her mother was almost 30 years younger than him. He's like, wait a minute, it is time to stop. So he said he knew that moment, this is my last James Bond movie. I can't do this anymore. And it was, and by the way, just one of the best themes. A lot of people hate it. Duran Duran, View No Kill. I think it kicks ass. It was playing as you got here today. I remember being... I posted this when I posted about Moore when he died. I was crushed. I was 14 years old, man. And I'm like, wait a minute. Well, they got to stop the series now. You can't go on. You can't... I mean, thank God for Timothy Dalton, even though he only did 2. But I was just so... It was like knowing Return of the Jedi was the last one at the time. The last one I'll ever see in my life. Just 3? What are you talking about? I'm like, 7? Roger, 7? Could you get to 10? Do 3 more? It was an awful thing to hear, that he was leaving Bond. And a good decision as you get older and realize, man, maybe he stayed one too many. But I don't know. Were you, at the time, did that affect you?
No.
As a film goer?
No, I don't think so.
You were still a little... 85.
I was like 85, I would have been...
8?
Yeah. Yeah, 8.
So yeah, didn't you were just like, there'll be another one. Right. No, it crushed me, and
I was probably running around doing something else.
My girlfriend made me... Yeah, right, you were fine. You were doing Bond versus Darth Vader.
Where's He-Man?
Yeah, it's true. Transformers, robots in disguise. I'm
Michelangelo. I don't know what I was doing at that period.
I remember my girlfriend, when I heard he was leaving, my girlfriend made me take it down immediately. But on the inside of my locker, I put a picture of Roger Moore. She said, take that down. Sorry, honey. And in retrospect, yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, everybody knew me, but,
Oh, maybe, you have a bro crush.
Maybe, yeah, right. I love you, every morning, love you, Roger.
He's my bro.
But, no, it affected me, and his death affected me. But we're early yet, so I more schooling for William here. His non-Bond roles, any that jump out at you as...
well, the main one I remember was Cannonball Run.
Oh, yeah. I must warn you, I'm Roger Moore. Remember that? Before he beats the guy up? I like that. And it's been a while. A long while.
That was my favorite Bond movie.
Oh, shit. This podcast...
Actually got to drive the famous car.
That he drove in the Cannonball Run?
Yeah. That was like an actual Bond car.
Oh, was it
a Bond? That he never got to drive in any of the films. And he finally got to drive it in
was it the Aston Martin?
Yeah, I think that's what
it was. Yeah, because he never got to drive that.
No.
It sucks because fucking Craig gets to.
Yeah, but he got to drive it in Cannonball Run.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I could stand to see
Which I don't think he mind, because I think Daniel Craig was one of his favorite Bonds after him.
Daniel Craig was his favorite Bond.
Yeah, he wanted to be. He wanted to play a villain, even though he was smart enough to know that he never would. But he wanted to be a villain for Craig.
That wouldn't have worked. You know, it would have been cool, and then about maybe a half an hour in, it's not working here.
Not working.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like Sean Connery playing a villain. George Lazenby could.
I don't know. Someone could do a script of some outdated retired 00 that turns bad.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good idea. Yeah. But he's very much like. By the way, he was Beauregard Maverick on Maverick. I couldn't think of his name earlier.
So it's like son or cousin or
cousin.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. One of the movies he did, I had never seen, and I finally got a chance to see it thanks to Turner Classic Movies, which I hope they're going to be doing some Roger Moore movies that aren't Bond, you know. It's a terrible movie, but I wanted to see it all my life. The Sins of Rachel Cade with Angie Dickinson, Peter Finch, and Roger Moore. Who came up with that? Who came up with that trio there? It's a love story set against the backdrop of Nazi blah blah blah. And who cares? That's really. But Roger Moore was very suave, if I may. He was very stern in that movie, and that's a good example of what he could do. There are better ones coming up here, but that's a really good example of what he could do outside of Bond. If you ever see it on, just watch it for a few minutes. Don't put yourself through the whole thing. He did a movie in '69 that I kind of like. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called Crossplot. It's a assassination thing, and you know, it's a confusing thing. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He's an ad exec, I think. He's an ad exec in London and gets involved in this assassination plot. And it's not Bondian, but if you ever see the cover of the box, it looks like a Bond adventure. The Man Who Haunted Himself, I had never seen, but our devoted follower and buddy, forgive me, Atel. I don't even know if that's right. Atel, A-T-L-E, Viersveen. I don't know if I have his name right. I apologize. He claims The Man Who Haunted Himself from 1970 is a good film. He plays Harold Pelham, who finds a duplicate of himself in the aftermath of a car crash. Kind of a doppelganger thing. I don't know. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I've never seen it.
Never seen it.
Thank you. I feel better. I never saw his show, The Persuaders. I hope to do it. It lasted one season from 71.
Said that he quit smoking.
Is that what
Was it The Persuaders?
I'm not sure.
It was one of his series. I think it was The Persuaders that he said for the longest time that's where he stopped smoking. But then in like interviews a few years later, they caught him on film.
He's like, yeah, right.
Or something.
Come on, Raj. You don't have to put on airs for us, sir. Yeah. In 74, he did, for Peter Hunt, who did On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he did a movie called Gold. Did you ever see that? That was a staple on like the ABC Movie of the Week. I mean, it was a movie, but it came quickly to TV. Like 75, 76. It was always on TV. Yeah. The gold miner adventure kind of thing. Ray Milland, Susanna York, Richard Roundtree, John Gielgud.
Watching much TV in 75.
No, I wouldn't imagine you were, yeah. But Bond. Sorry, see? It's in my DNA. Moore is, he's an adventurer and this and that, but he's very suave, and he's always romancing Susanna York. And it's an okay movie if you can find it. It's hard to find. But he's very good in it. You know, he did a TV movie that is awful called Sherlock Holmes in New York. Self-explanatory. And then he did...
Sherlock Holmes?
What's that?
I'm guessing it's about Sherlock Holmes.
And can you guess where he is in the film?
Los Angeles.
Right!
No.
Then he did two of maybe my two favorite non-Bond movies he did. Well, there's one more later. Street People, which doesn't. It sounds like it shouldn't work, but it does. He and Stacy Keach are nephews to a mafia boss. I'll say that again. Roger Moore plays a half Italian. I want to say he's half Italian, half British. That's how they explain it away. But it's this really gritty Italian directed, set in New York, but Italian directed, violent, mafia thing. And Roger Moore and Keach, of course, take on everybody. And is it silly? Sure. Listen to what I just described and who's in it. But it's good. I mean, it's violent. And 70s violence, it's hardcore, and I liked it a lot. It's a good movie. It was streaming on Netflix, so anybody who has Netflix, if you ever want to have some fun, check it out. It's a good movie. And then he did one of my favorite movies, Shout at the Devil. Please say you know that one. I have it. I'll lane it to you anytime.
Wow, golly.
I will, hell. Directed again by Peter Hunt. He and Lee Marvin. I forget where they are. It's during World War I. They have to destroy a German battle cruiser. Two of them. It's one of those old-fashioned adventures, It's like something Kipling would have written. Ish, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe that was a little overstated, but it was actually based on a book by Wilbur Smith, who I'm not familiar with his work, but it's a great. I mean, Roger Moore and Lee Marvin. You couldn't get two farther separate styles of acting, and it's just great. It's a blast. They're in the jungle. They fight. He falls in love with Marvin's daughter. They have to band together to destroy this German cruiser. I mean, it sounds like it was made in like 1959. It's a great movie. Is it a great movie inherently? No. Peter Hunt's not John Huston, but yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great adventure. Good old-fashioned 1976. Oh, I lied to you. This is my favorite Roger Moore non-Bond film. I know you know The Wild Geese. Sir.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's also, forgive me, Dirty Dozen fans, and Inglourious Bastards fans, and Guns of Never Fans. It's my favorite Men on a Mission movie. Richard Burton, Hardy Kruger, Richard Harris, Roger Moore.
Finally, his ability to get past the fact that he couldn't do A Bridge Too Far.
Yeah, is that true?
Yeah, he was supposed to be in A Bridge Too Far, but his Bond schedule coincided with it, so he wasn't able to take it.
Oh man, I never knew that.
Yeah.
See, there's stuff I don't know about Roger Moore.
That's why I'm here, just throw out little facts now and then.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Ed. Yeah. That's my train of thought. That's really cool. I never knew that. Yeah. It's surprising that they couldn't work him into A Bridge Too Far, because every actor in the universe was in A Bridge Too Far. Yeah, that's weird. No, The Wild Geese. God damn it. Roger Moore, Richard Harris, Richard Burton, Hardy Kruger have to topple a South African dictator. It's that simple. There's Joan Armatrading, the great South African musician, does the theme song. Roy Budd, the great British film composer, does the music. Directed by Andrew V. McLaughlin, who did many great, I about said John Wayne Bond films. John Wayne Westerns. Shaken, not stirred, you son of a... Yeah.
Another trivia. Apparently, Roger Moore never said that line.
Never said shaken, not stirred?
That's what I heard.
He hasn't in the first three so far.
Yeah.
I think you're maybe right.
Yeah. I don't think he ever said that line.
That's sad. Daniel Craig never even drank one until the third movie.
Yeah.
Drank beer.
Well,
don't drink
modern
beer.
Day, come on.
No,
Kids
I know.
Nowadays don't know what a martini is.
I know, right? Yeah. I don't want.
What's a martini?
I don't
like
want.
a sex on the beach.
Yeah, right. Is there an umbrella in it? I want an umbrella in it. Do I have to turn upside down? They pour it to my mouth. I want to do that. On the beach. Woo!
Does it come in a keg?
Yeah, right. And then we go see Fast and the Furious. No, The Wild Geese is a great adventure. It's one of my favorite films. I mean, it's in the probably bottom 100, but it's just I'm glad you know and like it as well. It's a blast. It's a blast from beginning to end. And Roger Moore, it's funny, my dad always said, maybe somebody besides Roger Moore with those other actors in it. I'm sorry. I've always thought Richard Burton was overrated. He's good and can be great. He was more of a stage actor. That's why in his movies he always projects like he's talking to an audience out there. Roger Moore blows Richard Burton off the screen every time, in my opinion, in Wild Geese. That's a very Tarantino thing to say. I know it sounds like sacrilege, but it's true, man. And it's not just my allegiance, because I have allegiance to Richard Harris. But Moore owns the Wild Geese when he's on screen. Damn right I do. No, Moore owns the Wild Geese, man. He's great in it. I love it, and it's a great film. So happy that you know it and like it. Like it, love it. Whatever.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah. And then Moore was miscast in a fun movie, and he admits that he was a miscast, but he wanted to try something different. In '79, he did Escape to Athena. Back to Greece, Nazis in a Greek village, fighting the Greek resistance. George P. Cosmatos directed it, who went on to direct Cobra with Sylvester Stallone, First Blood Part 2, and for some weird reason that got him Tombstone, which is one of the best westerns ever. So how'd you do that, sir? Anyway, Escape to Athena.
Yeah, no, really, huh?
Yeah, right. Who's the producers? I know who we can get.
Yes.
We want to do a great, authentic, fun western. Yes, Cobra. That's the guy, the Cobra guy.
Think we get Stallone?
Yeah, right. Stallone is Wyatt Earp, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is Doc Holliday. We'll make a fortune. Chuck Norris is the younger Earp. Yeah, I don't know. Escape to Athena, Greek resistance versus Nazis. You need to know nothing else. It's silly. Telly Savalas illegal. But Roger Moore played a Nazi officer. He's the bad guy. And his accent is off. And he is miscast. And he's good. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like Kevin Costner in Robin Hood. His accent sucks. It's in and out. He's miscast. But he's all right. He's fine. He's fine. I have no problem with him in Robin Hood.
No.
Just don't try the accent. But at least, good or bad, Moore tried something else. And it worked and didn't work. He did a movie called The Sea Wolves. Oh, I lied again. There's another one coming up that's also my favorite. So Street People and Shout at the Devil are down a little more now, but this isn't it. But he also did The Sea Wolves with Gregory Peck and David Niven. You saw that? Yeah.
I remember the name and title. I'm not
sure
if I saw the movie or not.
Three old army dogs having to get together and destroy the blah blah blah. You know, we've been there. It's okay. It's fun for who's in it, and again, Gregory Peck, David Niven, and Roger Moore. Sure, why not? It's fine. It's fun. You'll see it. Eat some popcorn. That was good, and then you'll move on with your life. You know. Number 2 favorite movie after The Wild Geese. Okay. Favorite non-Bond Moore movie, and I mean it this time. North Sea Hijack is its original title, and I'm kind of glad they changed it, even though this isn't much better, because it's the character's name he plays. Folks. F-F-F-F-O-L-K-E-S. Folks is the name of the... Like, hiya, folks, like I say here. But 2 Fs. Is he a retired British agent? Terrorists take over an oil rig, and they have to hire him to use his. He's an a retired anti-terrorism expert, and you know, we have a mission for you. I'm retired. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. All right, I'll do it. You know, that kind of thing. Right. But here's the thing about this. I love. Plot. Yeah, like this is my
other movie that comes out.
Sure. Yeah. No, I won't. Yes, you will. All right, I will. Let's go. It's my favorite non-Bond performance of Moore's. And what's funny is the American posters for Folks. Of course, they're trying to sell it because we don't know how to do that other than showing people what we already know. The American poster, he's in a wetsuit, because he does do some diving. He's in a wetsuit, and his arms are crossed, and he's holding a crossbow like a gun. There's a cat at his feet, and he's surrounded by a bevy of women. His character...
It's Bond!
Yeah, exactly. His character, Folks, is a chauvinist, lives in a castle with 100 cats, despises women, has no use for women. He even badmouths the women that are involved in the mission, even the higher ups. I think it's been a while. I think he speaks to the prime minister. He doesn't want to because she's a woman. Mm-hmm. He hates women, and there's no. And then so and so breaks through his wall. No, there's none of that. He hates women at the beginning. He hates them in the middle. He hates them in the end. He has no use for them. And he even makes a speech about how he has no use for women. They're superior to men. That's what he believes. Yet the poster is trying to sell it as a Bond thing. Right. But it's a really good movie, and he has to train these British soldiers in diving and anti-terrorism, and he's an asshole. He's a jerk. There's no funny quips. He doesn't smile. He's pissy from the minute it comes on till the minute it's over. Just very quickly, Michael Parks, who also left us a couple weeks ago, is one of the bad guys, and Anthony Perkins is the head terrorist who took over there. It's a great movie. It's fun, and it's, again, no more than what I've said it is. Come back. I won't. I will. Let's go. Let's train. We're there. They're dead. Movie over. And it's a lot of fun. There's a great score. It's very well directed, once again, by Andrew V. McLaughlin. It's just James Mason's in it as an admiral. It's so much fun. Seek that movie out. I really, especially if you enjoyed The Wild Geese, I really think you'll love it. So The Wild Geese and Folks, and then Shout at the Devil and Street People are my favorite non-Bond moors. I could probably do a show on Folks. Oh, yeah. It's that good. I mean, it's not huge, but there's a lot to talk about, and it's a blast. And then he did Cannonball Run, which you spoke about.
Oh, I love Cannonball Run.
I do too. And I used to, when I was a smarmy, budding film connoisseur in my late teens, I like the Cannonball Run. Shh, don't tell anybody. And now, I'll shout it from the rooftops. I love Cannonball Run too.
Yeah, but
yeah, I love the Cannonball Run because Roger Moore or no Roger Moore, or Jackie Chan or no Jackie Chan, it is what it is, and it doesn't pretend to be another goddamn thing than that. Yeah. And watching Adrienne Barbeau get out of a ticket is not the worst thing in the world either. No. But it was fun to see Roger Moore make fun of himself.
Yeah.
Because he was making fun of Bond, but he was also making fun of himself because by that time everybody knows, well, that's how Roger Moore is. He's suave. He's, cultured. Yeah. I haven't seen it in probably 20 years, and I'm ready to see it again now. Me too. I really want to see it again. And he did that right before For Your Eyes Only. And he was in The Curse of the Pink Panther. And moving on, that fucking thing. Here's an idea. Let's make a Pink Panther movie after Peter Sellers dies. No, don't do that. Yeah. He did another movie that was way off base for him, and I like it. It's not a TV movie, but it's TV movie-esque in its presentation. The Naked Face. Have you ever seen that? It's really good. It's based on a Sidney Sheldon novel. One of those pot boilers. Roger Moore, here's a cast for you. Roger Moore, Rod Steiger, Elliot Gould, Art Carney, and Archer, but he's a psychiatrist, and it's one of these things. A patient gets murdered, and all the evidence points to him, and he's got because we don't want to follow the cops, so we follow Roger Moore, figuring out the mystery. I remember when I first saw it, 1984, mind you, my age, and I went with my dad to see it. I only went because it's Roger Moore. Like, was he a psychiatrist? You know, there's scenes of him, sitting in a chair. Yes, and tell me about your mother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, this sucks. What is he doing? But of course, as I grew, I watched it, and it's no great shakes, but it's a damn good. It's a little potboiler, a little quick thriller, and he's really good. And he's varying degrees of frustration in that movie because at first he's like, oh my god, the evidence is pointing to me, and then he's getting pissed because the cops won't believe him, and he's yelling, and you see him getting angry and angry and more. And it's a pretty good performance, I think. 1984. What's it called? Naked Face. He did a movie called Bullseye in 1980 with Michael Caine. Did you ever see that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's a dumb little caper. It's not very good. I recommend it because watching the two of them together, they're having fun. Mm-hmm. It's funny and it's entertaining. It's a stupid movie. It's dumb. Michael Caine and Roger Moore have a great time, and I think they might have already been good friends. Yeah, Bullseye. Nothing more to talk about there. I mean, and frankly, by the way, he was in Jean-Claude Van Damme's directorial debut, and hopefully the last thing that guy ever directed, The Quest,
mm-hmm.
which was
he
terrible.
Loved that movie. That was Roger Moore's fit. No,
it's like
he
what?
outlined admitted that he hated doing.
Oh, did he? Yeah, good. He that's Van Damme calling in. How dare you? Yeah.
Let me stretch out across two chairs.
Right. No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he hated, as well he should. Yeah, did he hated the movie or hated making it? Or
yeah, he was just disappointed that he was involved with that film because it was pretty terrible.
It was pretty bad. And I admit when I saw the preview, it was in 94. I'm like, all right, Jean-Claude Van Damme directed it, but it's kind of a cool thing, going into the jungles and fighting, and Roger Moore's in it.
Did Van Damme really ever do any good movies?
I'll say yes. That's another show, but I'll give him 3.
You go back and watch them. Were they actually
good movies? That's that term is, yeah. Well,
I remember loving Bloodsport, but I'm pretty sure if I go back and watch it right now, I'd have some problems with it.
That's actually one I hated, but no, okay, yeah. I mean, all right. Did he do good movies? No, he didn't do. But
Universal Soldier. Do you think he watched it today?
No. Did he do 3 entertaining movies and of one which I own? Yes, sure, he did that. Let's do a Van Damme podcast. I'd be so bored.
Yeah, no.
I would be. You like that one? Yeah, me too. Next one? Yeah, me too. It'd be a 12-minute podcast. You're right. And you said this earlier. He was the oldest person to play Jay. He was 45 when he started.
And he was like 56 when he ended.
It was Monte Cristo cigars were the cigar, the long,
cigars,
yeah. That's his contract, unlimited. I said a case, unlimited supply during filming.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it right.
I would have said, give me 50 boxes, and I would have stuck those suckers. I would have built a house-size humidor. No.
What if you wanted to smoke more than 50 boxes?
I probably could.
Of course, you probably would have died of cancer.
I would have. Can I tell you, if I smoked a whole Monte Cristo at once, it would have been like an acid trip. I've had a few of those cigars that you should smoke a little at a time. All the scenes where he's running fast in the James Bond films, it's a double because he said he looked goofy when he ran.
Yeah, he didn't like running.
Isn't that weird? His stepdaughter's boyfriend.
People have dumb runs.
Steve Seagal. You ever seen that guy run?
Yeah.
Oh, pansy. I wouldn't say that to him. I hope he's not listening.
Say that to his face.
No.
It's like a top
guy body slamming. Yeah, I know, right?
Professional guy. He'll just,
And he either did or didn't train
throw
assassins.
You on the ground with one of your fingers.
I know, yeah. With one of his. Yeah, right. Sorry. No, I like the really bad fake hairline you have. That's fantastic. His Roger Moore's stepdaughter's boyfriend invented Skype.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. I believe you. I mean, Bill, some thoughts on Roger Moore as we get close to the end here?
He got a bad deal after, I think, his bonds. I think a lot of people kind of typecasted him, and he tried and did some good stuff afterwards, but I don't think he ever necessarily got to the
Connery level of
Connery
post-Bondum.
level.
Yeah.
That from
I
the sound
agree.
of it, you would have liked him to have gotten to.
Yeah,
But,
I would. I
it was
really
kind
would.
of like after Cannonball Run, it's kind of like, Roger Moore's still around.
Well, he had 2 more
And
Bonds
then
after that.
And then you see kind of, just that period of time. I'm just saying, as
No,
I've
yeah.
gotten older, at least for me, he was never necessarily, I was, Roger Moore hasn't done a movie in a while. But it was still, you mentioned Roger Moore, and it was, Bond.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. And that's the thing. With Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, and Timothy Dalton, you mentioned their names.
Mm-hmm.
They're Bond, but for me, none of them immediately. Timothy Dalton, boom, Bond. No, not yet. There's other shit he did. Yeah, but Connery and Moore. As soon as you say it, in my head, there's Bond right there.
Right there.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot. And you're right. I'm glad you said that. I would have, as a Moore fan, not just Bond, I would have loved to have seen him have a more successful post-Bond career.
Mm-hmm.
Connery had, I don't know if Connery had the chance at better scripts, or Moore couldn't pick them as well, or whatever the case was. Or probably you're right, nobody would give him a chance. And I think, and this is just a theory, his own personal style, which he already had, his Bond, how we saw his Bond, that was already Roger Moore from way back to the 50s and 60s. That's how he lived his life. That's how he walked, dressed, talked, spoke. And I wonder if his own personal style hurt that. And I think that's why, I mean, yeah, sure, he had fun doing Wild Geese and Shout at the Devil. And I think that's why he did Escape to Athena and played the Nazi bad guy, trying something else. And he still looks suave as shit. And he's in this SS uniform, the long gray coat and the hat. And he's got the posture. And, he wasn't a method actor. Mind you, neither was Sean Connery. But, yeah, I would have loved to have seen a more successful post-Bond career from Moore.
And he had been fighting that cancer stuff for a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
for quite a while. I mean, even
at least 15 years or more, right?
I think it was more.
Was it more than that?
Yeah, I want to say that I can't remember if I heard it somewhere, but I thought it. Yeah, he got it when he was, younger. I think it went into remission and then came back.
Oh, I had no idea it had been around that long.
I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. I think that's what I heard, but.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Because I think he was fighting cancer for.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
I didn't even know that he had it or had been fighting it. Yeah, it's sad. He was also the final guest on the original Muppet Show.
Yeah.
The final guest. Yeah. He is one of the few, he's the only one who didn't perform any of his own stunts. Even Connery did more. I don't know. Yeah.
Smoking so many.
It's like, I'm wheezing.
That's why he also didn't run.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he looked funny. It's that he was winded.
It's funny because Roger Moore was one of the presenters when Brando won for The Godfather and turned it down. And they had Moore take the Oscar home to keep it, and then they'd pick it up or whatever happened. And
they never got it.
The photographers outside thought
that he won.
Moore had won something, and shit, they might as well have just given the damn thing to him, because I don't think Brando even accepted it.
No, none of them accepted it. I think I heard that they never got it from him.
In the Wild Geese, there's a scene where he took a lot of flack from people in the acting community. He there's an interrogation scene with him and Richard Harris and Richard Burton, and they're interrogating someone. Imagine that, like I needed to explain that. And he asked for all of his lines to be cut out, and the director's like, "Well, this is a big scene for you. You know, you have a lot of lines here." He said, and I quote, "Do you seriously think I can act against these two guys? I'll just sit here and puff on my cigar and look cool." And I know the scene he's talking about, and he does, and it works, and he's probably right. Yeah. A lot of people, critics included, said that maybe Moore wasn't tough enough to play Bond. And during Shout at the Devil, Lee Marvin said, "This guy's made of rock." He didn't do a lot of stunts there, but he had a lot of fight scenes and, gun shooting and ducking and blowing up. And Marvin said, "This guy's cut from marble," or whatever, and that's high praise from Lee Marvin, for God's sake. So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've come to the end of our Moore podcast.
Okay.
Roger. So Roger. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up earlier. I really would have loved to have seen a bigger post-Bond. I'm not saying he would have been as good an actor as Connery, but we don't know, because maybe back when he gave it up in Diamonds Are Forever, people were going to say, well, he could never do anything different, Maybe that's what people, even though he had done stuff. But I don't know. I always liked Roger Moore. I mean, a person can be a damn fine actor without being able to do many other kinds of roles,
Yeah.
And
he did well for himself. It's not like some of the actors we have nowadays, they make it big and end up going off, and then you read about them on, some tabloid, or they're doing, celebrity whatever, and, they've wasted all their money away.
Yeah, exactly. Johnny Depp. Yeah,
So,
no, I agree.
Back then, I mean, you have some of these actors that kind of fell off the radar 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But, they didn't necessarily need to go and bang on the studio's door.
Exactly.
This guy, had a home in Monaco, and, apparently had a pretty nice life.
He had a great life. He was a rich man, lots of investments. Yeah. And one thing we failed to mention that must be mentioned, he was huge supporter, donator, member of UNICEF. And he went when he in his
That's why he got knighted, wasn't it?
That's why he got knighted. For his work with UNICEF around the world, and he made lots of trips. He was the Angelina Jolie before Angelina Jolie. Him and Audrey Hepburn. But no, he was a beautiful man. He, mind you, this is all secondhand. I never met him. But it was said that he was a beautiful man, a very kind man, rarely lost his temper on sets. Married for years, children, grandchildren, humanitarian. That's the word I was looking for a minute ago. He was a great humanitarian. He liked to gamble, wasn't a gambling addict. He would go gamble, and okay, I'm going home now, And liked a lush life without, hey, come look at me, bring the photographers, photograph my home. I couldn't tell you what his house looks like, inside or out, He just sounded like a great guy, and one last time, like you said, I wish he would have had a bigger post-Bond career. And, that said, he is a part of film history. He is a part of my youth. Another part of my youth. I'm not going to lie to you. I shed a tear that day. Maybe 2 or 3. I was sad. I was very sad. It was upsetting. I'm actually glad we're doing this podcast a week out of his death. I may have done it on this show if we had done it, say, that day or the next day. The next day, I watched Live and Let Die with Arcade. And it was a mixture of feelings. He was, look at that, the boat jump, and him walking over the alligators, and he's like, he's so cool, and my lip is quivering. I'm like, I know he is, son, I know he is, And I'm glad we did this podcast a little later, or I would have, blubbered all over this thing. Blabbered?
At least
Blabbered.
pass that on to Arcade.
Yeah,
that's
that's
cool.
yeah, exactly. That's, Star Wars, Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
and now Bond. I'm a new Bond fan is born, and I'm happy because he's at the age when I,
Mm-hmm.
discovered.
And I'm sure even as you show him the more recent ones as you're going through the filmography, he's probably going to be the same as us. Most people.
Varying degrees of success.
Yeah, but you mentioned Bond, and I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
he's gonna get the same image of who Connery and Moore
Sure.
as being who it is. You have a little bit more appreciation for Dalton, but he might have that. But I still think with the level of Bond, I think the visions of those two will always kind of pop up.
And that's good because he's of the modern age, of course.
Yeah.
He's 8, and I don't want him to immediately go to Craig as Bond.
Right.
I love Daniel Craig as Bond, and I love 2 of his 4 movies so far. But yeah, I don't want that to be his Bond.
Right,
like you said, it has to be Connery or Moore, one of those. And that's what I'm doing. After Moore, we're gonna go to Connery.
Well, you see the spoofs, or kind of not even spoof necessarily, the kind of remakes or movies that kind of take homage to the Bond style. You're never going to really kind of envision Craig or Bronson and them. Even those modern day movies always kind of bring in that campy essence of those first, dozen or so Bond films.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they do. Die Another Day. Woof! Anyway, it's good, but my God, Brosnan. No wonder that was your last one. You know the terrible thing? Very quickly, they fired Brosnan because, well, you're 55 now. Remember how he looked in Die Another Day? He looked 45. What the hell are you firing this guy for? Meanwhile, Moore was 58 when he did his last Bond movie. And one last thing I wanted to remember. A few years ago, Roger Moore wrote a book called Bond on Bond, and he goes through the entire series and tells all the behind-the-scenes stories, not just his films, the whole Bond series. I think at the time it was up to Quantum of Solace with Craig. And he tells what he likes about him, each film, what he doesn't like about him, what he remembers about his own, stories about him and Connery, and this and that, and it's a wonderful book. It's called Bond on Bond. Roger Moore did it, and anybody who loves Bond, check that out. It's good. Cool. I bought it the day it came out. So that was our Roger Moore show. I wish he could have been here for it, but Sir Roger Moore is now forever in film history. Regardless of the varying degrees of his post-Bond career, he's Bond forever, and even though he's my second favorite, he's still the Bond of my youth, and he's forever Bond to everyone. To everyone. And like you just said, yes, we have our current, and his movies have made way more than all the other Bonds. But, I bet you in everybody's mind, 25 years and older, Bond, 2 faces come up. You know what I mean? Only 2. And like you said, Connery and Moore. And I'm instilling that in our boy. And I know I instilled it in Giancarlo. So anyway, Roger Moore, I was very sad at his passing. I was very sad at yet another piece of my youth being ripped from my soul. The only good thing I can say is everything we've spoken about him. His career, his humanitarianism, his enjoyment of his wealth and his life, and he lived to be a year less than 90. So, you can't, my God, why did you take him now? He did it all, and he did it with style. He did it with class, and he was suave as shit. And, yeah, I might be getting a little choked up here. Let's wrap. I'm going to miss Sir Roger Moore, and we'll wrap right now. But no, Sir Roger Moore, I'll miss him. And Bill will revisit his Bond films.
Yes. I will get on.
All right, well, it's been a great return. I miss being across the mic from Bill, and we will be back a lot this summer. and as we go out into the podcast universe. More about that later.
Sounds good.
And we'll be back soon with another episode. So, and let me tell you, this is just off the top of my head, and you can coin this phrase. Bill and Anthony podcast. I think nobody does it better. All right. I'm on an all-time high. No, really. And when I let you look at this, it's for your eyes only, okay? I mean, you know what I always say? Live and let die. I'm going to milk this till it's gone. All right, guys. Well, I'm Tony.
And I'm Bill.
Thank you for listening, and Godspeed, Roger Moore. Well done, 007. We'll see you next time.